I'm here to talk about my reading of The Undertakers by Nicole Glover. Now, you guys know that for continuity issues, you can check back in my last two videos where I share what I read in March, what I was going into April reading, and then I did a separate video talking about the first book in this series, which is called The Conductors. So check that out, because I don't want to go over that again. I don't want to lay all that groundwork out again. But the point is that at the end of that video, I was, at that time, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was 50 pages into The Undertakers, and I was very enthusiastic about my reading of that book. I was very excited because I felt like the author did a lot of improvements from the first offering in The Conductors. However, having finished reading The Undertakers, I have got to say I am not 100% sure if I'm going to follow this author any further than this. And it's not for I could take this on, I could take this on if I felt like it, from just like, sort of like how I addressed my issues with The Conductors, like I said, structurally, what I didn't like and what worked for me, and etc. But I'm not an intellect. I am a very much off the cuff, just say it, get it out, and go from that point forward type of person. I hate wasting time. I hate beating around the bush about things, and sometimes I hurt. Yeah, well, we ain't gonna get into that. So the reason I'm saying all this is because I'm about to go in a little bit, for no other reason other than that there were a lot of things in this book that just got on my nerves, and I think that I could address this from the 3-act system. So before I get into that, the synopsis is that this has our main protagonist, Henrietta or Hetty, and her husband, Benjamin, back again for another case. This series takes place post-emancipation, post the Civil War, in the Reconstruction era up north in Philadelphia. And as I said in that last video, Henrietta or Hetty and her husband, they once were conductors on the Underground Railroad, and then after that experience, they are now like a special interest detective duo looking at special cases revolving around occult issues, magic, that sort of thing, missing people under peculiar circumstances. So each individual book, I guess you can say, is their own separate mystery with a little bit of tie-in in between. That's all good. It's great. So in The Undertakers, the issue here is that there was a stream of incidents in which neighborhoods were set on fire, or rows of houses or businesses were set on fire underneath magical circumstances. There's this tie-in between a wealthy man and his son and his children, and he was killed off stage, the man, and then subsequently his son was found murdered later within the book, after the son enlisted help from Hetty and Benjamin to help him solve an issue. Now, I know y'all are seeing my expression while my face is frowned up and scrunched up as I try to relay all this, and that's because the first act did a great job of introducing these elements, piquing my interest. There's the subject of stolen jewelry, stolen unique price heirlooms that were carried underneath these underground tunnels within the neighborhood. By the second act, it was just a convoluted mess that nothing tracked for me. Nothing tracked for me, because once again, the author was blowing us this way and blowing us that way. Because by then, it suddenly turned into a situation where we were looking for a young woman, a girl that's gone missing, a girl that presumably has the code to this cipher, I think it's the code to a cipher. The code gives the coordinates to where a stash of priceless jewels are located, treasured. And in the meantime, Hetty and Benjamin are being thwarted by this villain that they used to run into while as conductors on the Underground Railroad. So the chapters will go sometimes between the past encounters with this villain to the current. And the girl who they're looking for is tied to the past as well. I know it. And I'm going to upload this video because I know y'all see how I'm looking. Y'all see my expression. I'm going to upload this video anyway. So I hope it doesn't sound, what's that word? Pedantic. But I'm really trying here. But that's kind of what this gave me. Frown lines and sheer confusion. Like I said, the setup was good. If she only just kept it freaking simple. But it just got muddier and muddier and muddier. That, like I said, by the second act, nothing tracked for me. I couldn't keep up. And I don't say that in the sense that that's how I want to have it. That's the purpose of it. But when you compound personal side character story arcs, just random issues or random scenes that are trying to paint this era that these characters are in to give it a little bit more life, which she did a little bit of a better job doing in this book. Like I said, it just didn't track. It just read too convoluted. It's like you're grasping at all these interesting things that may have evolved or even occurred during this time that we're speaking about and trying to throw it all together. And this leads me to the third act. And this is when I just kind of had enough. Although I did read the book through and through. I'm going to be specific in saying that with all that's going on, an example of why nothing tracked or why I was so frustrated with this book is because, although it launched, y'all, when I tell y'all the first act was just, I was with it. I was absolutely with it. But it's by the third act, an example of why nothing tracked is that Henrietta and her husband or friends or something, they went to a baseball game. At this baseball game, the author decided that this was a little playtime for her. You know, everything else, like I said, we already was having issues. In the baseball game, the players on the field, while some were in the air, standing or mounting broomsticks to catch the baseball as it flew through the air. When I read that scene, the first thing that came to my mind was like, I am not going with you here. I'm not doing this. I'm telling you, I was like, I'm not doing this. Like, you mean to tell why? Why do we need to see this? Why do we need to witness this? What is this giving us? Now, I know what it was giving us. I know what is leading up to because I read the book. But when I first initially came across that scene and I'm looking like I'm in my head visualizing that you have, because there's some magic in this series, players standing on broomsticks catching the baseballs as it fly through the air. You mean to tell me that effort and that energy couldn't be better focused to paint that scene, which I'm not going to give it an adjective. You mean to tell me, it couldn't be better focused towards getting control of the mystery in itself? But what it did was it not only introduced us to another problem I had with the already magic system, but it also, the purpose of it was to show that this is possible. Because immediately following that, there was a scene on a trail or a train where they were once again chasing after this recurring villain, where Henrietta was using a broomstick, riding a broom to chase the villain, to go after the villain. And I know y'all are like, well, what's the big deal? The big deal is that you're asking for too much from me. You're already asking for too much. And now you're throwing us, like I said, the wind is blowing us all the way over in this direction. And I'm just like, come back down to the ground with this. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's stay on the ground with this, because everything in the beginning of this book, like they was in the underground tunnels. Henrietta and her husband was discovering this underground tunnel. There was some suspense in the intrigue involved around this socialite and his father and his sister and his cousin. You know, I was really I was really getting a feeling of there's like this mystery. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was giving me everything. And then, like I said, it got more convoluted, more complex for no reason. I couldn't track anything. And then that third act came and that freaking baseball scene came, and I was just like, okay, so now we're doing broomsticks. People are riding broomsticks. People are riding broomsticks. I'm like, I'm not, ma'am, Miss Glover, I'm not going with you. I refuse. I am not buying a ticket. I am not going with you here. We're not doing this. I wish somebody had said, like, ma'am, no, 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 somebody, no, we're not doing broomsticks. I know that's too much, but I went ahead and I kept going. But that was like the thing that just told me, oh my God, there's no way I'm gonna be able to keep going with this series. And then the third act, it got further and further off the rails. Then there was my next issue, where there was a scene where, or one of the things the author constantly kept doing, consistently over and over again, was one of the things that annoys me a lot about mysteries is when there's that surprise character that comes in, that's in the room, or comes in during a scene, that suddenly appears. You know, oh, there's such and such. You know, there's a dire moment, and there's the door opens, and boom, there's whatever. That's annoying to me. But that aside, there was a scene where, like, there was this whole place on fire. I believe it was a mansion. It was a gala event. It was a mansion that was on fire, and all this choreography going into it that was just confusing the freak out of me. And I'm just like, why is nobody, they're in the middle of fighting in this inferno and nobody is passing out from smoke inhalation? What is going on here? Just help me figure this out. But I think that what really, the last two things that really just made me say, I don't know if I can keep going with this series, is the way that they ended up try to sort of boxing in the actual culprit of the mystery of the murder of the two men. Is they did a mock, I don't want to call it a seance, but they did a situation where they sort of used magic to bring the victim back to life through some rather smoke and mirror means. And it's just like, is that really necessary? Like, it kind of reminded me of Dead Girls by Nakia Afia. Like, at the end of the book, they tried to capture their villain through a seance, through a fake seance. And it's just like, why are y'all reaching into these realms that don't need to be reached into? It's like somebody got to say, like, no. You have to make your characters much more smarter than this. Like, they can't do this. Like, this is too, I don't want to say over the top, but it's asking too much. To me, it's asking too much. Stay on the ground. So that aside, I think when I got to the end of the book, the thing that made me say, okay, I'm wiped out, I'm done. The ultimate thing that made me say I'm wiped out and done is because I got sick of all the side characters. Done. Everybody knows me, or everybody probably know that I'm not a fan of the found family trope or designs, where the author loves side characters so much so that they start moving them all into the same house. And there's the main protagonist, and then the side characters just come in freely in and out of the house, in and out the doors. They're cooking on their stove, they're chopping up onions, they're making them dinner. It like some kind of 90s sitcom. By the end of this book, I was just like, ugh. I was like, this is so freaking annoying to me. Like, I don't know what it is about that. Like, when they start corralling all the characters to live under one roof, or just slowly trickling them in, or they're always there all the time. And one thing that I loved the most about the first book was I loved the voice of Henrietta, right? By the end of this book, I was sick of her too. Honestly, I was tired of her too. This book started off on an excellent foot, but it was just absolutely way too demanding of the reader. Like, it was asking too much of the reader, both, like I said, in terms of unfolding the mystery, these weird scenes that just don't fit into what's already complicated or already does not track well, and then this consistent, persistent need to keep bringing these side characters on stage to have a moment, to the point where by the end of the book I felt like they just completely outshined Henrietta, and she just was in different form to me in this book compared to the past one. So that is my resounding feelings of the Undertakers. I know that this is not a structural kind of video, and I don't really have time for that. Like, there's people can do a better job at that stuff than me. I don't feel like it. I don't feel like all that. But I just had to get that off of my chest. And I think that I was looking at the author's website, and I think that there's 2 more books coming out, but I don't think it's necessarily following these characters. So if she switches it up, maybe I do have a feeling that I will try the 3rd book, hoping that once again that she's gotten better. I guess you would say. Like, I hate using it because I couldn't write a book to save my life, but we will see. That's all I can say is we will see. Bye.